Hi, friends. Welcome back to part two of the discussion around money and our relationship with finances. It's a huge topic to discuss. So, if you haven't checked out part one, check out the show notes. We'll put the link for part one there, but listen to that first and then come back and listen to part two. Also, we just want to say again that because of the bodies and the lives that we were born into in this life, in this incarnation, we have a very limited understanding of poverty and the challenges that come along with it. So we just want to recognize that. And here we're just sharing our stories and our experiences. We'd love to hear more about yours if you feel led to share. So join us in the convo and let's dive back in.
It's interesting because I was previously, up until May, operating a business out of this, house with some other women, and I had a flow of money coming to me weekly, and all that shifted, and I had to revisit my ideas of, hey, it's okay that the same flow isn't presenting itself to you in this way, and being able to be open to receiving in different ways has been interesting, because I think I had a month or two where I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm not making this up, blah, 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 blah. And in that time, of course, the universe wanted to say, all right, let's see how you do with this. You need a new air conditioner. Your kids are hitting you up and they need money for legit reasons. And I was like, ugh, getting tighter. And I think I reached out to you. I was coming home from visiting his son, and I made the decision actively again that money is never going to inhibit my expression of love. So whether I think I have enough or whatever. And seriously, that afternoon, I said this to my son. I said this to you, Claire. I think I was getting tighter on money. That afternoon, I came home. I had sold like $200 worth of junk on Facebook Marketplace that had been on there for I don't know how long. So I literally get $200 cash. And then that night, I get a phone call that someone wants to hire me to do some art, and I love that. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. But I had to recognize what was going on energetically and emotionally around money in order for that flow to come in from a different direction.
Mm. Yeah, clearing something out to make space for what wants to come through for us.
Totally.
So this is something else I noticed from the responses, but men and women think about money differently. And
Tell me, I want to know about that.
okay, so first of all, there's the whole like historical, sociological impact of like women literally legally could not own property and were themselves property of their husbands until like 150 to 200 years ago. So men in general have a big old jump start on their wealth.
Mentality.
Yeah. So that's just like big picture. But then even the messages that we receive as women around our ability to handle money. So this is something I've been more aware of in my own limiting beliefs are like, I don't know how many times I've said, well, I'm just not good with money.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
Because
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm not very good with math. Like my husband tries to walk me through these, very complex Excel spreadsheets that he loves, and that's his language that he speaks all day, every day at work. And I'm like, I can't follow. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I did take accounting in college, and it just didn't make sense to me. Statistics don't make sense to me. So, conclusion, I'm not good with money. Ugh.
Right.
No, I want to get that out of there. So
So
a lot of these messages are coming at women that even in just like women's magazines, women's television shows, women just spend money frivolously. And if they could just stop shopping so much, they'd be able to save enough to put a 401k, so I'm trying to like be aware And this book I'm reading right now by Rachel Rogers called We Should All Be Millionaires, she even uses the example of Sex in the City, which we grew up on Sex in the City, older millennials, like high school, college, that was our jam. And Carrie Bradshaw, main character, couldn't afford to buy her own apartment in New York City because she bought too many Manolo Blahniks. Okay. She just couldn't stop buying shoes. Crazy artistic writer. Oh, silly girls. So I think there's been this huge movement in the past 10 years or so to empower women to build their own wealth. And I know that there's a lot of coaches out there now who are helping women specifically who are transitioning out of relationships where the male or the partner handled all the finances. And then these women either don't leave a marriage or a relationship that isn't serving them because they have no idea how to manage their money, or because they feel like they themselves can't build their own wealth and can't sustain themselves. So going back to the feelings of security and rootedness and safety around money. So in the responses I got, I noticed something that several women mentioned, and these are my friends who make buku paying bucks, like big girl jobs. They felt when they got promoted that because they were making so much money, they then had to prove that they were worth that salary. So then I point blank asked, and I only asked 3 males about this, so this is just my tiny little study here. Point blank, have you ever felt like you didn't deserve to make the amount of money that you're making? Of course, they have never felt that way, ever.
Of course.
So women are going into these situations like, oh, am I even worth this big ass salary? And it's like, of course you fucking are. But guess what? Men don't even think about it. They're like, of course I am.
That is interesting. Okay, so there's so many things you said that I can speak to personally. So my first husband, I got married when I was 20. I didn't know anything about money, blah, 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 blah. And when I left that relationship because of infidelity, I was so scared. I was scared because I didn't know how to earn money. I mean, I had made money just doing little odd jobs. I babysat other kids, whatever. But he was the moneymaker. He handled all the money. Everything related to money, he handled, and everything related to the kids and the emotions and the house and I handled everything else. And one would think that I would be a gazillionaire with all of those jobs I did.
Didn't get paid for any of that work, huh?
Yeah. I was very scared. And it was a time of empowerment for me. I mean, I will never forget learning how to put a coach light. I mean, I learned so much. I took down a tree. I was on my roof. For the first time, I opened my own bank account. That Helen Reddy song, I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, I was playing that on repeat because I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And that's wonderful that I was able to step into that in place of empowerment and not feeling so intimidated by this man's world of money. Also, I think it comes at a cost that you think about women now, we're going to earn our own money and we're the girl boss and all that. And it's great. And that's an important part of stepping into, self-worth and personal empowerment. But I also think about we were wired, right? That the man provided, right? That's what he did. But we created life. We rebuilt a home and the nest. And so it's confusing sometimes, some of these roles. And that as women, yes, we want to be able to steer our own ship and make bank. But I also still love the idea of the man providing in that way. And so I wonder what the cost has been to relationships as women have had to step into roles that maybe historically we weren't in. I don't know. I think about myself. Now I'm in a position where I don't, quote, need a man for any financial resources. And it does have me redefining and reevaluating the value that I offer and the value that a man might offer to me. And it's been a interesting time of reflection because historically men and women came together because we needed something from the other. And it's kind of redefining the way in which I will enter into a relationship.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like relationship dynamics in general are changing so much, and there's of course positives and negatives to all of that. And as our relationships are changing, and I think of like when we talk about masculine and feminine, I always come back to just within ourselves, right? Because relationships look so different now. There might not be a man and a woman, whatever. But there is within myself, as I'm navigating the river, the banks between my masculine and my feminine, or if you don't use that dichotomy language, then whatever you would use. But that part of me that wants to provide for myself and make myself feel secure, that doesn't have to be threatened, or not threatened, or even overshadowed by someone else coming in and providing. And I think it's interesting because I've never had a relationship where we made the same amount of money or I made more. It's always been that my partner has made more than me, and my husband literally made twice as much as I did, because I was a teacher, right? But I have plenty of friends who the woman is the breadwinner, and it opens up doors for playing different roles. But money is such an influential factor. It depends on how you want to use it, what type of relationship you want to have, um and role, like determining roles are really helpful. I found in all interactions, but in your romantic relationship, like that role of breadwinner can change. And I've seen that with friends too, where like, you know one is making the buku bucks, and then something happens and it goes like this, and so that creates a whole unstable shifting environment, and you have to find your stasis again. Okay, now, but money is a big factor in all of that change up, you know
Totally. And I think when I reflect on, it's the mastery of energy. And so I am attracted to anyone who can master energy. I mean, be it that the water's on a river, that guy is the captain of the boat, and he's because I respect that in myself, the ability to become more of a master of the elements as I'm, gaining years and hopefully a little more wisdom. That's important to me. And so, sometimes I think like, well, am I being shallow if I'm not interested in dating someone who is clearly not a master of energy in this realm? What is, I start judging myself around that. And I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about the ability to harness the power of the universe. And that's super attractive to me. And unfortunately or fortunately, the most common denomination of that is a dollar bill.
yeah. And we do have people who are mastering their inner energy domain that don't have the money to show for it. And we have
Totally.
people who are shells of a human who are raking in the top 1% of the wealth in the nation or the world. So it's like I would love to sit here and think, well, if I just cultivate my inner energy, there is an element of truth to that, of course, as within, so without, and vice versa. But there's also plenty of examples in the world that that's not true.
Well, and I think as we sort of continue to radiate that whatever, that cohesive harmony, it does show up. It might not be in our timing. And, we get in our own way with our thoughts, myself included. So the flow of energy never stops flowing. So it's just, where is that flow drawn to? And how many like little rocks and boulders have I thrown down that's kind of changing the course of direction? And some of them may be attitudes and conscious thoughts. Some of them can be lineage thoughts, lineage that not thoughts, but so I don't want to say like, oh well, if you're not making money, energetically, you're not doing the work. Like that's not the case. And there are those who have chosen not to participate. They don't want to be in this river. They see this river is nasty, and it's got some sediment that they just don't want to be a part of. And speaking of my son has autism, and I asked him yesterday, oh, Claire and I are going to talk about money tomorrow. What are your thoughts on money? And he is living like a pauper. I mean, he lives off of his disability, and month to month, very much month to month. And prior to this, he worked. Prior to COVID, he worked, and that changed everything for him. But that's not the point of this. He worked at a chemical factory for about 5 or 6 years and made money. I mean, he made money, and not, but to him, maybe 4 or 5 times what he's making now. And so when I asked him yesterday about his thoughts about money, he said, "Well, when I stopped pursuing money, I was happy again." And I thought to myself, this is happiness,
Hmm.
because he doesn't look great. I mean, he has, his nails are infected from a yeast overgrowth. Um, he's physically struggling in a lot of ways, and he's like, "No, I'm happy." And I was like, "Wow, okay, that was kind of confusing to me." And I said, "Well, what about this pursuit?" He's a savant, and so he's been creating this video game that, he's put his everything into this, and he's doing it on his own. I said, "Well," and he talks about it, when his video game is this, and he's gonna be a gazillionaire. I said, "Well, why do you say, you talk about when you're gonna have money, and you're saying you don't want to participate in money?" And he said, "I only want money so that I can experience freedom." And he said, "I don't necessarily feel free sometimes, because I don't." And isn't it, it's interesting, free. He doesn't feel free. And when someone gets something for free, like, wow, okay, talk about a word thing right there. I'm going to offer you this. Money is freedom. In this, it feels like freedom, because you're not afraid when a bill comes in. You can make choices about where you live. You can make choices about what you eat. And it seems like the less money people have, the less choice people have.
Exactly. And you live in survival mode,
Right.
which, if we want to really link this to the body, we feel our sense of security or insecurity in our root chakra, which is the very lowest point of your torso. So that root chakra is constantly communicating to us about our feelings of safety, and that's directly tied to money. So that's why, yes, like, money does lead to freedom and greater opportunities for those who have struggled financially. The prison of feeling like you can't do anything because you don't have the resources to fill in the blank, get childcare, get transportation, to get you to your job. Like, poverty is a disease. It really is. So moving beyond having enough money, and that was what another friend said. She was like, I've only ever wanted enough money to live, kind of what Patrick said, to live free. Like, I don't need multiple homes, I don't need the boats, I don't need the, European vacations every year.
But
Yeah.
basically, the freedom that comes with knowing that your basic needs
Right.
are covered.
Yeah. Allowing money to take you out of survival mode, at least in your external world, is huge.
Money, money, money. Is it the root of all evil? No. Has much been done in the pursuit of money that we would call evil? Yes. Is money a frequency, come with a frequency of its own? Sure does. But as long as we're on this earthly plane, it's wise to consider our relationship to money and what stories we're telling ourselves. Going back to my mom with her calculator, and today's the day to pay bills. It is hysterical. Every month I write on my calendar, pay bills. Okay. Like it's something that, I laugh every time because I'm like, oh yeah, Monday, I gotta pay bills. I gotta pay bills on Monday. Well, 20 years ago, that meant actually writing checks and getting stamps and writing addresses and mailing them. But I literally pay bills in like 2.5 minutes. And after I do it, I laugh every time because I'm like, what are you doing that this has any kind of energetic hold over you? And so I'm just reflecting that you can have money and not have an emotional freedom. And I think you cannot have money and still have emotional freedom, but it's a hell of a lot harder.
Yes. Yeah. So I would love, just as some journal prompts, or if you want contemplation prompts, like, what stories were you told or did you observe around money growing up? What beliefs do you have around your ability to acquire and hold wealth in your energetic person? Those are the two that have really come up for me in this discussion. So powerful stuff.
And one thing I want to close with as well, my guide said to me once, because I was becoming a little austere, I didn't need it, and to desire money meant that I was not on the right path. They said to me, with more money, you have the ability to do more good in this world. And when they said it like that, I was like, okay, then I desire more money if it is a tool to do more good. So, all right. Always great seeing you, Claire. And that crazy dog.
Oh, Quincy boy.
Quincy.
Wishes you all blessings on all of your spending.
Yes. And you know what? When you pay bills, start saying something different. Because now I just say money flows easily to me and through me. That's what I say. And so come up with something.
I love that mantra.
All right. Bye.
Bye.